Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and yeah, we're going to talk about the price. It's something that's been widely discussed throughout many different mediums and I want to put my 2 cents in because yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The writing's been on the wall that this was gonna happen for a long time now, so yeah, let's just talk. A little recap, just in case you're not aware by any chance, though I wouldn't imagine why. Shadows of Change was recently announced. This is the new format of DLC, taking over the old format of Lord Packs, where instead of 2 races being worked on, it's going to be 3. Now, the major difference is obviously the price here, as most Lord Packs in Warhammer 2 would cost around €9. This is in my region, by the way, and this new version of the Lord Pack costs 25. Quite the dramatic jump up for basically a Lord Pack, though we have seen that the DLC has been more expensive in Warhammer 3 than it has been in Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 1. Race packs, for example, are €19, they still are, as CA don't generally reduce the prices until a lot later. Warhammer 1 and 2 have still not had reduced prices, whereas the price of a race pack right now, that of the Forge of the Chaos Dwarves, is €25, the same as, funny enough, this DLC, Shadows of Change. And then obviously there is the Culture Pack, we don't know the official name, the Champions of Chaos DLC, which is €16. We've never had a DLC of that price before, so yeah, to be honest, it's not that bad. I would say that Champions of Chaos is worth it, purely because there's so many characters involved. But why is it that a Lord Pack has gotten so expensive now? It costs the same as a Race Pack in Warhammer 3, when it's not introducing the same amount of content as a Race Pack. A Race Pack will normally have, what, 19 or so unique models? Yeah. Where is that here? Why is it that a Lord Pack, the most generic form of DLC for the Warhammer setting, has had a 150% markup? Is it greed? Is it inflation? Is it something else? I'd say yes, it's 3 things at once. We have to talk about first inflation. Yes, things are getting more expensive worldwide. It's not just video game stuff, but it's everything else, right? We're in a bit of a worldwide recession, so everything is just going to increase in price naturally. And before anyone starts having some weird assumptions, no, I'm not defending this, it's just, it is happening. However, not to such a degree. We are not seeing that bad of a rise and stuff, unless it's something, important, like gasoline, electricity bills, and all that. DLC is not that important, and it's not what's considered an essential product in real life, like, for example, food, water, all the usual stuff. And then there's the topic of greed, of course. Companies are going to try and make as much money as possible. This is something that we all know, and yeah, they're going to try and appease the shareholders, they're going to try and appease parent companies. Remember, Creative Assembly is owned by Sega, and the executives are going to be trying to make as much money as possible. These are the people that make the decisions, not the devs. One thing I want to note here is, don't throw your aggro towards devs that don't make decisions. I speak to a fair amount of devs in the video game industry, not just at Creative Assembly, but at other companies too, and they love the products that they're working on, at least the ones that I speak to, because those are the ones that I actively try to talk to. They get screwed over just like us, not in the same way, obviously, as we're out of pocket, but ideas, products that they want to work on, and so on. At the end of the day, they don't make the final decision, it's usually the guy in the suit. But yes, executives will start to push to try and make as much profit with as little loss as possible, or expenditure as possible, meaning kinda getting the same amount for more money. This is something that isn't new to the industry, and it certainly isn't new for Total War. It's important to remember that companies are not your friends, no matter how many times they start pandering to you, giving to charity and so on. They're doing that for good boy points. They don't care about you, they care about your wallet. Yes, there's devs that do care about you, and I, again, will keep stressing that, because there's a lot of devs within the company that do care about the product, and do care about what the fan base sees, because they love the setting and they want it to succeed. I can guarantee you that some of them are probably right now quite gutted too. But the company does not care. The executives do not care. You are a wallet. This is how it works. This is capitalism. I know it doesn't sound like the best thing to say, but yeah, this is a reality. The problem is that these business practices have been allowed to continue, and I warned you in advance. When Total War PHARAOH was announced, what happened? The pre-order was announced with cosmetics. Not only that, but they were FOMO. This means fear of missing out, which means that if you don't buy it then, you're not going to get it until maybe in the future if they decide to bring it back. I expressed fear about this when the announcement happened, and a lot of you guys said, well, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect Warhammer. And I clearly said, this will affect Warhammer. Because if they start going and making cosmetic DLC for a historical game, yep, let's just dress up the characters or whatever the cosmetic actually does, then they can start seeing what they can do in the future. Because if you give someone an inch, they will take a mile. That's a very famous phrase that people seem to forget. We've seen this with other companies having this mentality. Blizzard with World of Warcraft. It started off from a fantastic MMO. I don't care what you guys think. I loved WoW. And then it turned into microtransactions, left, right, and center. It's one of these things which people allowed because they didn't lose their shit enough. If the grand majority of people are passive about it, what happens? This is why, again, cosmetic DLC and FOMO, both practices which really don't have that much of a place in Total War. It should be DLCs, it should be factions, it should be units, add in stuff of substance. And I already had that fear that this was going to be the case here. When the roadmap was revealed, I naturally started doing some speculation videos because, I mean, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. It's been a really tough drought, so let's talk. And what happened there? I'd already lost hope that we were going to get a ton of new units like they said, because that marketing talk usually doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean. So, yeah, I started talking about factions. I started saying, oh, maybe 3 to 4 units, stuff like that. Even then, I was really far off because I was expecting a Lord and Hero variant for all the different factions. A little bit of egg on my face there. You know, you expect a bunch of stuff, but, yeah, but I was sort of right with the amount of units to expect. And you know what? I'm disappointed that I was right there, because it's not enough units. It's clearly not enough, especially for factions like Kislev and Cafe, which, yeah, are not really doing well right now. Now, yes, I expect a bunch of DLC for Cafe. Let's be very honest here. The fact is that they are trying to use that to pander to a country in real life, aren't they? Considering that Yuan Bo was revealed at a convention in China before being revealed worldwide to the fan base which has been loyally following this setting for so many years. We found out about Yuan Bo before the official reveal because by that point there were loads of images showcasing him on Bilibili, Reddit, 4chan and stuff like that. And that's a massive shame because while a lot of people will watch leaks and read leaks and stuff like that, a lot of people just want to be surprised officially, not, oh, this happened. Kislev, with the inclusion of Shadows of Change, has 4 legendary lords. I really don't know if Kislev is going to get much more attention. This is the thing, right? Especially when 2 of the units that have been added into Kislev's roster, the Thing in the Woods and obviously the Incarnate Elemental of Beasts, don't have anything to do with Kislev. Lore might have changed, that's true, so they might have something to do with them now, but historically, no. Thing in the Woods is a Mordheim thing, hence why Rich hinted Mordheim. The Incarnate Elemental Beast is just a living incarnate of the Elemental Wind. It's a scroll of binding. It's got more attachment to the Beastmen and the Jade Wizards of the Jade College than it does with a country that is known for ice and snow. Now, in the most surprising way, there has actually been a community uproar around the price, which, yes, is quite valid. A comparison by the community was drawn up between the content of Shadows of Change and the Twisted in the Twilight, which, one of the best DLCs out there, to be honest. And even then, you actually don't see the full scope and scale of the Twisted in the Twilight, because instead of just 2 legendary heroes, we had 3. We also had Coadil. Draika, which demanded her own roster, had her own army, right? Yes, it was all recolors, but essentially they had to put some dev time into that. So the Twisted in Twilight was actually a far larger DLC than what we can compare to in Shadows of Change. Fueled with more units and obviously more generic characters, you got a lot more worth out of it. And to be honest, I would have said that, yeah, the Twisted in Twilight was probably worth €15. I'm going by euros because that's the currency that Steam picks for me for some reason. So the price was going to be updated on Shadows of Change, then it should have been €15. That would be a normal standard going by inflation. Yes, it's a 50% markup, but it's still pretty much what you'd expect from a Lord Pack DLC. If they wanted to justify this price, they could have at least kept the same amount of new stuff that's being added in from normal DLCs into this new one, and possibly also include a FLC Legendary Lord, alongside the FLC Legendary Hero. We haven't seen the DLC just yet, we haven't seen the content, but what we do know is that each faction is getting around 3 to 4 units. In reality, it should be at least 6 to 8, at the very minimum, to give each of the factions a little bit of substance. Again, they said a ton of units. Where is this ton of units? Before anyone jumps into the defense here, yeah, they can do this. The fact is, like Draika or Forek, Imrik, all these characters were introduced for free and did also have unique mechanics. I'm talking in reference of obviously adding in an FLC Legendary Lord. There's other stuff, obviously, with the lack of units and so on, and we'll talk about one of the specific units later on in the video, don't you worry. worry. I know it's been a bit of a drama, but in one case in this video, I can actually talk on like a defense of CA because it's not really their fault, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, what does this mean for the future of Total War Warhammer 3? I very much doubt that the price is going to change. I'm sorry that you need to hear this, but I very much doubt it. Mostly because Creative Assembly do something which they're very famous for. When they cause a little bit of controversy, they'll dig their heads into the sand. I very much doubt that they will acknowledge the price, mostly because, yeah, they don't need to. I've seen people talking about an outright boycott, which to be honest, I don't see a point in. If you want to buy the DLC, you shouldn't feel pressured into not buying it. If you want to wait until there's a decent sale on, by all means do that too, or if you don't want to buy it altogether, that's perfectly fine too. Don't make other people feel bad for it though, because at the end of the day, it's their money and they can do what they want. This is something that we've kind of seen already with Warhammer, right? For example, tabletop miniatures that are 30 years old still getting price hikes, and price hikes, and price hikes. Now, I'm not saying don't keep vocal. You should keep vocal. That will help people come to a decision themselves. What I'm saying is you shouldn't outright call people stupid and stuff because, look, being aggressive towards other people that just want to know if this DLC is worth it or not is just kind of pointless, isn't it? Now, it could be possible that future DLC prices will be affected by what is happening now. At least I very much hope so, because 25 euros is a decent amount of money. I know it might not be a lot for a lot of people, but it's still a lot of cash. That's basically going to the shop, right? And buying essentials for your house, food, drink, cleaning supplies, all the usual stuff that you need. It's a lot of cash, man. A big theory I have regarding the price rise is simple. You know when Rich said in multiple interviews that they currently have 3 to 4 years of support left for Warhammer 3? I honestly think that's it. It's 3 years or 4 years and then it's done. Then they'll move on to the next product, which I totally believe is Total War Warhammer 40k. And before people start saying, look, it's not going to work, whatever, we're talking about something more important right now, right? So the guys with the suits are probably going, well, let's try and squeeze this piggy out for as much as we can. And that's precisely what they're trying to do. Because let's be honest, there's been certain cases that have made me believe that right now they're just thinking about profit and not functionality. Patch 3.1 dropped a while back and it's been abysmal. There's a lot of stuff that basically just doesn't work. No hotfixes have come up. Hell, Nakai the Wanderer, a character that you paid for, by the way, can't recruit some units which were part of that same DLC. Is that not incentive enough to actually throw out a hotfix to make sure that that works? One thing is fairly certain. When you pay for a certain piece of content, you expect it to work, don't you? And it's becoming kind of surprising because that's a month and a half later and still no fix. It's very likely that we will see the fix, obviously, in 4.0 if it actually works. Because there have been many patches, and we've actually seen them meme about it too, where, for example, Tyrion's Sungfang quest, or stuff like that, right? There's quests which they claim is fixed, or bugs that they claim are fixed, and they're not fixed. Apparently people are still reporting issues with the Coadil thing, or Ariel with the Wood Elves. Again, content you paid for, content that you don't have access to. There is a rather large and popular community bug fix mod, but I shouldn't have to use a bug fix mod. But that shouldn't be an industry standard that community bug fix mods are becoming a thing, right? It's something that sadly we are expecting to see, but it's something that we shouldn't have. Thankfully, a lot of people have been waking up to that since the release of Baldur's Gate 3, which yes, is totally different to Total War, but the fact is, if an actual studio can release a game without any issues, or at least major issues, this shows that this is possible and other studios can do it too. It's a massive shame because it feels like we've been treated like morons for the past few years. And yes, I will jump and say COVID obviously did cause some problems, but prior to COVID, why have games been releasing in such bad states? Why? Why are day one patches needed? Obviously, I'm not just referring to Total War here, but just gaming in general. It's kind of frustrating in general. It's just, I feel tired. Hopefully the patch and anything coming with the DLC, we haven't obviously seen like everything in action. We haven't seen Mother Stankia, we haven't seen Yuan Bo in action. Hopefully they've got some pretty cool stuff. Hopefully there is a reason for them to say, look, this is why we are able to justify this price. But really right now from what we've seen so far, there's not that much going into it, is there? I've seen a lot of people talking about PHARAOH and saying that the reason why the Warhammer DLC is so expensive is because they think that CA know that PHARAOH is going to fail or something. The thing is, we've not seen proper promotion for PHARAOH just yet. They've been doing the generic stuff. Usually how it works is they announce, they get a bunch of pre-orders, then it's a small marketing push, which they've been doing right now, and then afterwards it's the big push, which is where the majority of their sales will come from. I'll be honest with you, as of yet, I'm not that interested in PHARAOH until I actually get to play it myself or see something of substance, because most of the Let's Plays, yeah, interesting, but not really my type of thing. I do think that PHARAOH will do reasonably well once they can actually start showing stuff and not just blurring stuff out, mostly because the Sophia team is fantastic. They know how to make good stuff. Yes, I know a lot of people didn't really like Troy too much, but you can even admit if you've played it, the DLC for Troy have always been quite good. They're able to create a lot of fun new mechanics, which we've been seeing bleed over into Warhammer 3. One thing is certain though, and this is just my opinion, I don't really see the point of PHARAOH this year. The fact is, Creative Assembly have this problem where they always release too many titles. They do one a year or every year and a half. It's kind of pointless, because why are you having multiple games up and running if one of them, especially your main flagship at the moment, isn't working as intended? It doesn't look good, because people who might be interested, who play Warhammer, are looking at PHARAOH going, well, if Warhammer's this buggy, then a reasonable assumption would be that, yeah, PHARAOH is likely going to be that buggy too. It's just how it works, because you associate the game because it's with the same studio, right? Now, before we end this, I can say one thing on CA's defense, which is the thing about the TZAANGORs. I know a lot of people were expecting the newer version of the TZAANGORs, and in all honesty, so was I. The ones with the avian beaks and so on are just much cooler. However, it's likely that Games Workshop told them no, and the reason I know this is because, you know, there's a game called Chaos and Conquest, right? It's a mobile game. I know some people aren't keen on it, but yeah, I mean, it's alright for what it is. They themselves couldn't use the new version of the TZAANGORs, and it's the same Warhammer Fantasy IP. This IP is shared through a few different studios, like for example, these guys and Fat Shark with Vermintide. So if they can't use the new version of the TZAANGORs, it's very likely that CA can't either. This is a Games Workshop thing. The reason why I'm saying this is because I'm seeing a lot of people calling CA lazy for it, but if they just don't have the permission for it, yeah, it's not really their fault. This is more Games Workshop not realizing, hey, people would like this and therefore buy. But this is also the company which decides that Epic right now needed a re-release, and Epic needed to be as a 30k setting rather than a 40k setting, so it's just freaking Space Marines. But yeah, I know this because I contacted people, because at the end of the day, that's something that you should do before turning on that microphone, and I asked a few devs, and they said, yes, this is obviously the Chaos and Conquest devs, but yeah, they said, unfortunately, we were not given the rights for the Age of Sigmar / Warhammer 40k version of the TZAANGORs, so we used a Warhammer Fantasy variant. Remember, Games Workshop think they know best. Think they know best is the best way to explain this. So here we are. What I would say is make informed decisions of whether or not you want to buy this DLC or not. Creative Assembly haven't really shown a lot of stuff yet, but I imagine that they'll start doing it soon. So this will help you decide if it's worth it to you. That's the most important thing. Are you going to get value from this? Keep vocal, however, because I believe that it's the most important thing. While they're digging their heads in the sand, they're still going to be listening. It's very, very important to note that they have to be listening. It would be incredibly tone deaf of a company not to listen to their player base regarding this. Buy it now if you wish, wait for a sale, find the best deal possible, or don't buy it at all. But make sure it's the right decision for you. Time will have to tell regarding everything else in the future, but I'm sure you can find a decent deal if you want it online. I don't post those links, which is buy this DLC and support me and all that type of bullshit, mostly since Warhammer 3. I used to, and when that launch ended up being terrible, I decided morally I can't do this. It just doesn't feel right, obviously. And I'm certainly not going to do it now after posting a video complaining about the price. Let's just hope things get better, because it's frustrating. I love this game, I do. Warhammer 3 is something that I've been waiting for. Just the whole Total War Warhammer series in general. It has been a bit of a life changer for me, I must admit. I don't want to see it go to shit. I'm certain many devs wouldn't want to see that go away too. This is something that they've been able to just create, something so massive. I really hope Creative Assembly, I really hope the people making these tone-deaf decisions will be listening to the fan base and think about the possible future. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm sorry if I sounded angrier than usual, but there has been good reason to be angry. I don't like doing that. I like to find the good and the bad, and I want to just have fun. I want to talk about the video game I spend so much time on, you know? Yeah, have a good day, guys. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.